Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow, everybody. I am Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, interfaith minister, and evangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field here in the U.S. as well as internationally. And hello, all of you that came in. I appreciate all of you being here. This is all, a lot of the topics come up with current events, things that inspire me, things that bring to my attention a reason for us to bring to the conversation, because a lot of times we're not necessarily talking about it, even though it's sometimes an elephant in the room. Now, today's topic is about society. And a lot of you, if you've spoken to me more than 5 minutes, know that I'm not a big fan of society. Why? Because it tends to manipulate and it tends to do a lot of weird things. And the majority doesn't necessarily know everything there is to know. They're not the most clued in, the majority, right? But now today's topic is really important to me because it's about society and its effects on body image. Now, let's go back to modern, to artwork, the masters. Right, exactly. And I like that hashtag. Now, going back in society, if you look at the masters and the artwork that they had produced, a lot of that, the body image back then were these beautiful, curvy, Rubenesque women. They had curves in the right places. That's what beauty was back then. Now, as times change, of course, things change. They change, but they stay the same. And if you really think about it, we change to a point, but we go back to the same old standards of one way or another. It just changes slightly. So now, then you went into going back into the 60s, where women weren't Rubenesque anymore. They were hippie, right? They were hippie and they were very natural and organic looking. And then, of course, it fast forward, then became the supermodel, where you can actually tack on, padding to put the curves where you want them. And then there's airbrushing. That happened with Playboy and a lot of the magazines and a lot of the supermodels there. And then fast forward to today. So basically, going with that, body image has changed drastically from one step to the next, to the next, to the next. Now, what does it really matter? What does it really matter whether you're thin or fat, overweight or not overweight, tall or short, big ears or small ears, big nose, small nose, albino? What does it really matter? Okay. Now, Tony is sharing here, not dealing with rejection well when I was younger and having to deal with the constant health problems. I don't have help with my body image either. I admit I've gotten way better because I've learned to love myself and see the best in everyone. But body image is something that I constantly deal with. Now, and I'm glad you shared that, Tony, and thank you for that. Reason being is because it's not just women, it's also men as well. That also kind of taints who you are and what you do. The popular people in society, they're visually appealing. Now, who's to say what's visually appealing and not visually appealing? Now, I'm guilty of one thing only. I see things from the inside out. I've always been that way. I've seen people that I feel were beautiful from all ranges of life, all faiths, all colors, all body shapes. So really, does it really matter whether you're shaped differently, whether you're smaller, shorter, taller? What does it really matter? Should we actually listen to what society dictates is the norm? What you see on the runway isn't the norm. Is a size 0 the norm? Okay. Now, I'm sure if I ask this question to all you people watching, you will probably know basically what normal average real body image is, or real size, right? It's definitely not a size 0. It may not be a size 16, 20, or whatever it is. I'm horrible with sizes as well, just to let you know. Hey there, Anna. So you're thinking about a 10, okay? And I would guess that's probably a fair assessment. It's not a 0. It's not a 16. It's a kind of a bit in the middle. Now, Beth is saying, love handles are normal. I like a guy with a little bit of tushy. Okay. Hey, Lance, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So now if you really, really think about it, sometimes we're looking at people and going, they're visually pleasing. Right. Now, Tony's saying there isn't a normal size, if you ask me. If there was, then we'd all be the same, and what would be the point of that? And welcome, Lance, to finally get on the show. I know you've had a lot of issues to get on. Well, there really isn't a normal size per se. There really isn't a normal size. You can't say that, quote unquote, there's a normal size. However, there's a roundabout way where, yes, women are going to have hips. Women are going to be shaped a certain way. There's going to be an overall average, but it's not necessarily normal, because all of us are different. All of us are unique. Now, you can get an average height. You know, back when there were the sailing ships, people were approximately only about 5'4". That was about the average height. So if you were 5'10", like I'm 5'10", at 5'10", I would be a giant. I would be like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar back in the day. On those sailing ships, they had literally beds that we would consider shelves today. There's no way in hell. Fast forward to today. My standard size tub, I wouldn't be able to sit in it without it probably being up to my waist. And that's not going to do with anything. You know, that's not really going to be very functional at all. So you need a super soaker tub. That should be the standard, right? So, you know, like Anna's saying, there's a range of sizes that appear at work, sort of. Okay, 6 to 20, most clothes are the range that we do have 2X to 5X clothes in plus. Not all of those sell. And that's a good example. And I appreciate you sharing that. And then she works in retail and she works around clothes all the time. So she would be able to know what sells and what doesn't sell. The super small isn't selling because there aren't enough people that are super small. And then, of course, because of diet and because we don't necessarily always eat the best, we don't always take good care of ourselves. Also, the large, the 2X, the 3X, like, you know, I went ahead and gave blood, and I grabbed, and I actually was able to receive a T-shirt for when I just gave blood recently on 4th of July. Now, there was one 1X left, 1XL, which is what my size is to be comfortable, correct? Now, there was a plethora of oversize, and there were a lot of mediums, right? So now there seems to be an area of size where it's an acceptable, knowable size range. And I'm glad you donated. And just as a side note, you know, you are a hero. If you go ahead and give blood, if you're able to give blood, you are a hero, because blood only has a certain shelf life for X amount of weeks. And especially if you're a rare blood type, it's really, really good. You can save someone's life by donating blood. So, and no, I don't work for the blood center or anything like that, but I just feel passionate about it. So yeah, it's really important that you do that. If you can, if you're not squeamish, try, because that is really, really cool. And yes, Lance, you are also a hero because they took plasma out of your blood. Fantastic. So now let's think about this for a second. So body image. We are blamed and shamed constantly for being too big, too small. If your boobs are too big, that's a problem. If your boobs are too small, that's a problem. Now, yes, I am focusing a little bit more on girls at this moment, on females. Why? Because it's a little bit different with body image. I believe that guys tend to be a little less caring about their body image. Not by a lot, though. I will say that I do know a lot of males that are very, very, they want to care about themselves. They want to take good care of themselves too. There are guys like that as well. I being one of them. I want to maintain a decent fitness. I want to be able to maintain a decent health. I want to look presentable, all of that. It's important. So I'm focusing a little bit more on women. The reason I'm focusing a little bit more on younger women and younger children is because this is where it starts. Society is going to dictate if you're tubby or chubby or too thin or scrawny or a string bean, all of that. Now, if you really think about this for a second, does it really matter? Body image doesn't really matter, since we're all so different and we think differently and we look different and we come from different backgrounds and we have different ancestry. What dictates as normal? Does it really matter if you're a bit taller or a bit smaller? Shouldn't it be about health? Shouldn't it be about your well-being? Shouldn't it be about your confidence level? Are we raised to be confident? You know? And this is part of why I bring this topic today and this week. Absolutely. And Anna has something to add as well. And being aware is so important. That is so important. And a lot of times we don't think that. So when you have a child that you are nurturing and raising, the last thing you want to do is squelch them. The last thing you want to do is limit them. That's the last thing you want to do. Because if you already start looking, and if you think about this for a second, when you're little, when you're small, you are fascinated. You're fascinated with your own reflection. It's not really ego. At that age, they don't know ego. They're like, wow, I've got two eyes. I've got blue eyes. I've got skin. I've got a round face. My face looks round. My face looks long. I've got a nose. I've got lips. All of that. But then something happens. Society twists things a little bit. Now, Anna's sharing, okay, the bras are often hastily made, and if it doesn't fit the women, the women blame themselves and not the garment. And I will agree completely and totally. A lot of times, things are made in such a haphazard way. And if you think about it, the runway models, you look at the runway models, the clothes that they actually put on these women, they're not average size women. Some of them are really tall. Some of them are really chesty. Some aren't really chesty, whatever it may be. But the clothes that you see on the runway do not trickle down to your local store. And the sizes are ridiculous. So you're not going to see that there. And it does change. The style does change for person to person as well. So that also makes a difference. Now, Anna's saying women's bra size changes with gain or loss of 5 to 10 pounds. And you know what? It doesn't even matter if you're female or male. You yourself, whether you're a guy or girl, will alter. You will change within 5 pounds at any given moment. You could literally, and I've actually proven this. I have actually been 5 pounds lighter in the beginning of the day, waking up, and been 5 pounds heavier before I went to sleep. Part of that's water weight. Part of it is your body is shifting. Part of it's metabolism. There are so many different variables in that. So What's the moral to that is really don't quibble about 1 or 2 pounds, because you're going to be fluctuating between a few pounds anyway. So that's also part of it. And a lot of these clothes aren't necessarily always ready to wear, and the styles don't necessarily fit average people or don't fit average society. So, if you look at the clothes sometimes today, you look at them and go, wow, how do they even manufacture this stuff? Now, Cindy's sharing, I can talk to men on dating websites. They tell me I'm beautiful, smart, and so on. But when they see that I'm 18, 20, they say, no thanks, screw them in the small minds. And I agree. And I agree. I agree completely. Limited people are not going to realize the quality of a person. So does 5 or 10 pounds matter? Not really. Does it matter if they're bigger or smaller? Not really. Nayan is also saying there's a movement in fashion called fast fashion that entices people to buy more clothes more often. Right. And also, this is also part of it. And I brought up a friend of mine a while back, and I'm going to bring her up again. This girl was gorgeous, and she was a big girl. And I'm going to say she was big, but she was curvy in the right places, but she was, by society's standards, she was a larger girl, but she carried herself well. She had confidence through the roof. She knew how to dress for her body size and her body style. She knew how to do that. And she was full figured. Absolutely. She was full figured. She would be considered a BBW, big, and was it big, bold, and big and beautiful woman. I'm not really big on labels, so I apologize if I hacked labels up. Yeah, big, beautiful women. But the thing is this, she was gorgeous. And I'll even tell you, she was sexy. Sexy doesn't know any certain appearance. It really doesn't know any appearance. So why am I bringing this up with body image? Because it's all internal. It's really internal. So I was DJing in this one particular club, and this import came along, and she was from West Africa. Now, this particular girl, she was solid muscle. And I know, because there are times that, me being very, very protective and Papa Bear like, this is kind of how it happened. One day she's walking by and I kind of gave her a swat on the butt, right? And I was like, whoa, she was solid muscle. Now, her father was a diplomat and her mother was a nurse. And she was incredibly intelligent. So I didn't judge her for her taking on the job. She actually enjoyed dancing, and she was actually very, very classy. So not everyone is necessarily dysfunctional. Okay. But she was dancing, and she was very, very robust, and she was built very curvy. But she knew how to dance, she knew how to move, and she knew how to carry that body. So basically, what ended up happening was that was an early lesson for me, to be able to see. Now, I never really judged anyone for their appearance, because again, I've always looked at people from the inside out. There is no real normal. We are all very, very different. We are all unique in our own way. So what's the similarity? Well, most of us have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Most of us have 2 ears, all that kind of thing. Hey, Jason, glad you're here. So that being the case, another a very close friend of mine was actually born with a cleft lip. Okay. Beautiful girl, beautiful heart, beautiful spirit. And the way she carries herself well, and the confidence is amazing. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of working through adversity to get that. So really looking at body image, and thanks for the props. Looking at body image, that's really, really important. Now, society has a way of making you feel out of place. Society has a way of saying you're not good enough. You're not tall enough. You're not thin enough. Too thin? Not good. Too chubby? Not good. Now, just a little FYI to you guys. It's based on commerce and commercialism. It's based on a lot of things. But also, too, just a little FYI, you could be overweight and cop a heart attack. Hey, Ariel. You could be thin and fit and also have a heart attack. Cancer doesn't know whether you're chubby, overweight, too thin, too tall, too small. Cancer doesn't know. Cancer doesn't discriminate. And Tony, I will say, and Tony's saying I thought it was based on suppression and oppression. Well, there is a degree of that too. Keeping up with the Joneses, having to make X amount of money, having, and a perfect example, we have, someone right here on the show that has done modeling. And I've had countless conversations, and it's awkward too. Yeah. Ariel, basically. Hey, Pamela. Now, that's awkward. That's an awkward place as well. Because what happens? It's very, very specific where they will look at you, at your body style, and because you look this or look that way, you look too much like this, too much like that, you are taken apart and dissected over body image. The designer will say, I have created this outfit, this dress, this skirt, this clothing line for ridiculously shaped people that don't exist. They really don't exist. It's a very small sampling of people. You have to find it. Sometimes you have to create it. Sometimes you have to airbrush it. But this is where I go back. It starts off with, if you are already at a young age, you're already criticized. You're already criticized for who you are. Now, I'm glad you shared that, Anna. Modeling in an art class is empowering. And this is a perfect example, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Anna. When I was in college the first time, I did a life drawing class. And I will tell you this, what you would think I enjoyed drawing or what other people enjoyed drawing, you wouldn't think, it wouldn't be society's norm. One example, I drew this older gentleman. The lines on his face told a story. He was not fully fit. He was actually kind of skinny. But the lines of his face, the character, the form itself, it said a whole story. It was an amazing experience. And also, I really, really also enjoy drawing the Rubenesque women. The lines, the contours, the curves, the way the hair landed on their shoulders. Now, did I take apart these people? No, I drew them as a whole. I drew them as a whole being. I drew their soul, if you will. I tried to draw their soul and put it on paper. And this is the whole thing. Now, laugh lines, people they go get Botox to get rid of their laugh lines. So they start actually trying to erase their character. You don't find that with Native Americans. You don't find that with Asian people. You don't find that with a few different other cultures. And I will say this, you look at some of these cultures where they're organically they're okay with how they live. They're okay with how they age. You know, they really look at how they live, and it's internal to or external, and they age so gracefully and age so well. Now let's just focus. Let's go fast forward a little bit when someone that gets too much plastic surgery. Joan Rivers, as an example. Now, granted, she may not have been the most glamorous woman in the world, but when she went ahead and got all that plastic surgery, she changed into a mannequin. Now, that's just my opinion. I don't think that it was unnatural for her to go as far as she did. Now, granted, if that's what she chose to do, I'm not going to judge her for that. But the problem was she went far beyond. It wasn't just a little here or a little there. She really went over. Now, again, this is to do with body image. When we're aging, we want to look younger. If I wanted to look younger, I could, I'd go ahead and put Just for Men in my beard. Apparently, I don't do that. It would make no sense. I wouldn't be able to keep up with I wouldn't be able to keep up with the wisdom that happens that's showing through my beard. So it is what it is. So what's the difference between body image? What does it matter if someone doesn't find you acceptable? And she's dead, right? And she's unfortunately passed on. Very funny. And even she made fun of herself with all the plastic surgery that she had done. You know? And she looked awesome before the surgery. Before she passed, she looked artificial, right? So this is all part of it. This is all part of it. So body image, I can understand wanting to be healthy. And I know people that are very, very healthy and not a size 4 or 5, but they're very, very healthy. I know people that are unhealthy that are too thin. So it goes to show again. It goes to show again about what is society's norms. Why do we have to keep at a certain level, at a certain weight? Each person has an ideal weight. Individually has an ideal weight. Now, if you look at your ideal weight, it's all based on insurance companies, not what your actual ideal weight is. Technically, believe it or not, my ideal weight is actually supposed to be around 180 pounds. I would look sickly. I would look sickly at 180 pounds. I'm over 200 pounds. Now, granted, can I lose about, I'd say, about 20 pounds? I'd probably do well at about 20-pound mark, because then I would, increase mass, increase, the definition of muscle to fat ratio. Yeah, right. But the thing is, I'm comfortable where I'm at, give or take a few pounds, give or take me working out more often. But that is not to society's norms. And you're hearing me say this. Screw society and their norms. It's not about that. What do you feel like? How do you feel? Can you look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am me, and I'm perfectly fine with who I am, how I am right now? And again, it's not just about weight. This is about physical attributes. Some people have a larger nose. Some people have bigger ears. We as people were naturally not symmetrical. Women will have one breast larger than the other. It's natural. I had a girlfriend that she used to wear an improper bra, and she wasn't well endowed. up top. So one day I went with her to shop. And I just basically said, why don't you get something? Why don't you get something that fits you, that actually suits your body style? Now she couldn't even give blood. She weighed so little. But I'll tell you, to actually wear clothing that suits you, that fits you, and you carry yourself with confidence, that makes all the difference. So really, it's not about what society dictates your body image should be. It's what you dictate. It's how you feel about yourself. And it's something where, granted, I'm not. You're not gonna find me wearing a speedo. Granted, I was raised European, but I won't wear a speedo. That's just not my thing. You know. But that's just that. I don't feel it's right. It's not society. Even if every guy in the world was like wore speedos, I wouldn't be, because if I don't feel right in it, I'm not going to do it. you know. And as Natalie is sharing, the fact is, even if you are even a bit overweight, dating is hell. You could carry yourself like a Queen of England. And again, people tend to be very judgmental. That's part of the society. That's part of society putting down, and I will tell you, I have friends of all shapes and all sizes. I really do. All ages. And you know what the interesting thing about that is? Across the board, they all have the same adversity. I don't feel I'm tall enough. I don't feel I'm small enough. My boobs are too big. My boobs aren't big enough. And guys, the same way. I'm kind of stocky, but I'm kind of short and stocky. All of that. And this is a big thing. Where did we start to judge simply on what someone looks like? Now, granted, I know there's a chemical reaction to what someone looks like. So you have to be physically attractive. It's kind of how it worked with the cavemen. You have to be physically attractive. But what's physically attractive? Does it matter if someone's a pound more or a pound less? If they're an inch taller or an inch shorter? It shouldn't matter. And this is part of it. This is the big part of it. If you carry yourself with confidence and you are comfortable and you do your best to be healthy, however that is, that's all you can do. And that's all you should do. Just because you don't fit in a GQ magazine, just because you don't fit, doesn't mean that you're wrong. Doesn't mean that you're not approachable enough, or doesn't mean that you're not attractive enough. And also too, as a little moonsight and little FYI, I had a crush on a little person. I did. And she was hot. Again, very attractive, very pleasing to the eye. And the interesting about this is that I didn't say anything because I felt intimidated. I felt intimidated. I was shy about it. Years later, I ran into her. She happened to be one of the customer service reps for Verizon going back. I saw her in a different store. And I told her, I said, look, I have a confession to make. Going back years ago, I thought you were really cute. And I really wanted to ask you out, and I didn't. And she said, why? Why didn't you ask me out? I said, well, I don't know if you'd like me. I don't know. I have no idea. And she said, well, I'm engaged to be married, but I'm very flattered. And I think you're a handsome guy. And years ago, I was single, and you should have asked me. So, but she was a little person. Did I think, oh, she's a little person. What's society going to think? What are they going to think seeing me next to her? No. There's an old saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The beholder is not society. There's what, 7 billion people in the world today? So you're telling me that the majority of those people are only going to believe that a certain size or a certain height or a certain weight or a certain eye color or a certain length of hair is going to be the difference? I also had a crush on the girl with the mohawk. Just saying. Does it matter? Did it really matter? She was pleasing to my eye. Did I think about who was watching or who would think? Oh, what people got to think? No, it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter. So, are you okay with you? And that's also part of it. It is about commercialism. It is about society kind of pushing everyone into a box or putting everyone into a certain status quo. Most people don't fit in that status quo. So this is the big part of it. So what's the difference? Right, right. And Natalie's saying, but there are scientific studies that on what body types are attractive to most people. Not all, yes. But and I agree with you. And I agree with you. And the reason why I say that, I can completely understand. Because but there's a level, and this is where things change. Hello, Matar. And this is where things are different now. And this is where I want to say, I am really, really glad that I'm here in this day and age. Society has been flung onto its head. 2016, we've got Tess Holliday, a BBW model. And she's a big girl, and she is beautiful. Gorgeous. I actually saw recently a suicide girl. That's a type of model. They're more alternative lifestyle type people. They have like tattoos and that kind of thing. But this particular girl is a little person, and she's also gorgeous. And she's a model. You have hand models, feet models. The world is no longer the same. Society has to take a back seat to size 16, to size 0, to tall, to small. There are more shops, and now there are more places that you can get big ball clothing that fits you, men and women. It's no longer the same. People have gone beyond what society has dictated. I think it's about like Lane Bryant. Was it Lane Bryant is for women, that larger size women? Is it Lane Bryant, I think? Okay, Lane Bryant. Then there's also for men, I forget what it is. I think it's King something or other, but there are stores for men. Okay, and Ashley Stewart. They're big and tall men. One of my besties, she can't, like, she's an awkward size herself, and she's very, very tall and lanky. But guess what? She has a bitch of a time finding pants because she's all leg. So this is a lot of what I'm saying here. It doesn't matter with body image, and it's really been a big change, right? And Turid and Hot Topic, There's that as well, right? So it's far more, it's different now. The world has been flung open. You've got all different types of models now. You've got older models. Okay, here's another example. Women over 50, 60, modeling. Isn't that freaking incredible? It's no longer that you have a shelf life. Okay, and then of course there's the cosplayers as well. So that's also another big part of it as well. One of my clients and a very dear friend of mine, she used to dye her hair, and she's a bit older than I, and I helped her with a lot of inner work and that kind of thing. She stopped. She basically stopped coloring her hair, and she went all silver. She looks awesome. She owns it because it's not within topic. So if you look at the topic, understand this isn't about politics. So please, I'm having respect. So have respect back, please. Thank you. So yeah, so Natalie's saying 9 out of 10 guys at a bar will choose a size 10 or under before you. Again, I understand that these are people of limited scope. They're of limited mind. One of the friends I had, okay, now she was also had a few extra pounds on her. She was curvy, and guess what? She could do splits, and she was more active than thin people I knew. She ate the right foods. She was healthy. She was at the gym all the time, and the only reason why she was a bigger girl was because of heredity. But she was technically incredibly healthy. It's just who she was. Now, does that mean that she is not entitled? That she's not entitled to find someone? And then again, also too, let's fast forward a little bit. There are people that like curvier women. There are people that like, and then different fetishes, taller, smaller, you know what I mean? Redheads, ethnic women, there's so many different people that are attracted. So again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So should we really pay attention to what society says? Should we look at these commercials and say, oh, I don't look like that, so I'm not attractive, I'm not desirable? No, this isn't it. Society is going to put us into this vanilla state or this vanilla roll. There are more flavors than chocolate and vanilla. And if you look at commercials now, they're also changing. They're a lot more average, quote, average. They're not all gorgeous models. Moms, regular women, regular sized women, different shapes, different ethnicity, heritages, races, ethnicities. That's what I was trying to say. There's all different types now. And yes, Lance, and that's how I started the show. If you look at history, bigger women were once better looking than thinner women. And you know what? And this is also part of it too. Someone with an extra few pounds actually ages better. I actually have a few friends that have a little more weight to them, and guess what? They don't look like their age at all. they look like they're 20 years younger. They have more of a glow about them. They look more youthful. So you think about it. Does it really matter? Does it really matter what society says? No. Does it really matter? Well, even what, and I'm going to I'm going to stretch it a little bit more. Does it even matter what your family says? They don't have to walk around in your body. They may be actually coinciding with society a little bit. The person that you have to respect and honor without being ego, without being, conceited or anything like that. Again, balance is key here, right? Being mindful, everything. The only person that you have to impress is the person that brushes the reflection while you're brushing your teeth. And you're absolutely right, Roy. If they mind, they don't matter. And if they matter, they don't mind. If you look in the mirror and you say, you know what? I look good today. Wow. I did something right. It's fantastic. That's all that matters. And that's the key. Because again, I've seen people that are larger, smaller. This is all the same thing. All of us don't feel good enough in some way, shape, or form. All of us. So we're going to close it up shortly. So hopefully hopefully the audio is good. So if you think about it, if you're not living in a specific area, or your ethnicity isn't exactly where it is, or if your size, if you're not tall enough, or if you're not small enough, whatever it may be, it really doesn't make a difference. So society pays less attention. They don't really care. Society overall doesn't really care about who you are. You should care who you are. Now, Cindy's sharing, so sad. I had a 22-year-old female coworker who is very large tell me about her abusive boyfriend who's getting out of jail and says he can't wait to punch her. But she's more afraid of being alone than staying with him. I hugged her and told her that she is beautiful and not to sacrifice her life for that. But that's what life teaches us. Now, there's another thing. And I'm going to say this. Who is she to think that she's not worth it? Who is she to think that she has to sign on to an abusive relationship? Again, society is dictating for you to be single. That means something's wrong with you. Look at you. Look at you. You're not a size 6. You don't look like you belong in a commercial or walking down a runway. So you need to take what you can get, girlfriend. That is the biggest pile of bullshit. Abuse is abuse is abuse. And that's a whole nother different topic. That's a whole neglect, abuse. That's a whole different topic. And we've talked about this in prior insight with Moonshadows, right? Prior insights. But this is the thing. She needs to stand up for herself and actually want and accept the fact that she's worth it. Again, society doesn't always help us to make sure that we're worth it. We're bombarded with all this minutia of you're not good enough, you're not making enough money, you're not successful enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. You are more than enough if you apply it to yourself. You are more than enough. You are perfect in your own way. All you need to do is focus on being the best person you can be for yourself. Because you know what? If you don't feel like you're worth it to yourself, if you don't have your own self-worth, no one else is going to think you're worthy. No one. So you need to step up and own it. Does it matter if you're curvier? No. If it matters if you're too tall? No. You could be built like an Amazon. Own it. And I'm glad that you're doing that. Ariel got a little work assignment. I gave her a little bit of homework of the I am and the I am not list. And Lance is an alien and he's doing fine. Welcome back, Vincenzo. So this is what it boils down to. And yes, I'm repeating myself, but you know what? You need to be the best you can be. You need to do it. And you still keep I still keep your advice. Thank you so much, Vincenzo. I'm not doing this to hear myself speak. This is only to spread my perception of the world out to you guys. That's all that matters. That's all I'm doing. Because I'm giving respect to my reflection when I'm brushing my teeth. And my reflection tells me, you need to share what you've learned. Because people have other stories and they're going to share their stories with you. That's why I do this. That's why we do this. And that's really, really super important. You know? So now, just closing it up. Just because we are bombarded with sound bites and CNN and all this media, you need to look at it from the perspective of ultimately it's what you want to believe. Question authority. Really take a look at who you are and how you're built. Don't let anyone distract you from your path, from your purpose. If you mean well, and if you really intend to be the best person you could be, then guess what? You're not doing anything wrong. You're actually doing exactly, precisely, perfectly what you're supposed to do. And that's important. So you may be a freak, you may not fit, you may be too big, too tall, too small, your ears may be too big, your nose may be too small. It doesn't matter. You're beautiful. You're perfect, exactly how you are. And don't let me or anyone else tell you different. What you think matters. And I'm going to close it on that. But just realize you have a gift. All of us do. And you have a story to share. So do put yourself out there. Vincenzo's saying, good, put yourself out there. Be the best you can be. So I want to thank you all for spending time with me here on Insight with Moonshadow. It is all of your stories and all our conversations that I have with you that inspire me to continue doing this work and this show. So this is why I always say, be strong, be amazing, be you. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.